My coworker, who thought she could cheat and deceive without consequences, was caught completely off guard when divorce papers were served right at her office desk, and the shocked look on her face became the ultimate reminder that betrayal always finds a way of coming back stronger than expected. But I'm writing this because I need to get it out. Because maybe if I tell what I did, what I destroyed, someone else won't make the same mistake I made. Maybe someone will read this and stop before they cross that line I can never uncross. It started with a text message. Just one, harmless text message that I should have deleted the second it arrived. Working late again. Husband doesn't know what he's missing. Ryan from accounting, tall, charming Ryan who always leaned by my desk during coffee breaks. Ryan who made me feel seen a way that Mark hadn't in months. Maybe years. I stared at that message for 10 minutes. My wedding ring caught the office fluorescent light as my thumb hovered over the keyboard. I should have typed "that's inappropriate," or "please don't message me like that." I should have reported him to HR. Instead I type "his at home with the kids. Someone has to pay the bills." Delete, delete, type, finally thanks for noticing, send. That was it. That was the moment I became the woman I swore I'd never be. The woman I judged in movies, the woman I pitied in gossip circles, the woman who thought she was different, special, deserving of something more. Mark and I had been married 8 years. 8 years of mortgage payments and school pickups and him falling asleep on the couch watching sports. 8 years of me feeling invisible in my own home while he scrolled through his phone during dinner. 8 years of maybe later. When I tried to initiate anything romantic. The kids felt it too. 7-year-old Emma would ask why mommy and daddy didn't hug like her friends' parents. 5-year-old Jake had stopped trying to get us to dance together in the kitchen like he used to. But that didn't excuse what came next. Ryan's messages became daily. How's morning? Thinking about our conversation yesterday. Look beautiful in that blue dress. I ate it like someone starving. I started wearing makeup to the office again. I bought new clothes. I felt alive for the first time in years. Deserve better. Ryan would whisper during our increasingly long conversations by the copy machine. Deserve someone who sees. I started staying late at work. Really late. Telling Mark I had deadlines, projects, important meetings. He barely looked from his laptop when I explained. Okay hon, I'll handle bedtime. Did he not notice I was glowing? Did he not see that I'd changed my hair, my clothes, my entire demeanor? Did he not care that his wife was slipping away right in front of his eyes? Of course, I know now that wasn't the point. The point was that I was making choices. Deliberate choices to betray the man who trusted me completely. The first time Ryan and me we were alone in the office building. Everyone else had gone home hours ago. I'd been complaining about Mark again, how he never listened, how he took me for granted. We're incredible. Ryan said, stepping closer. Any man would be lucky to have. I should have stepped back. I should have reminded him I was married. I should have thought about Emma and Jake sleeping in their beds at home, trusting that mommy would come home safe. Instead I let him me. And then I him back. The guilt hit me immediately. I drove home in a panic, my lips still tingling, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. Mark was asleep on the couch, an empty bottle on the coffee table, the TV still playing some late night show. I stood there looking at him, this man who'd never lied to me, never broken a promise. This man who worked 2 jobs so I could go back to school. This man who changed diapers and packed lunches and showed to every school play. I should have woken him. I should have confessed everything right then. I should have begged for forgiveness and meant it. Instead, I went upstairs and showered off the evidence of my betrayal. The next morning Emma ran into our bedroom and jumped on the bed between Mark and me. Mommy smell different, she said, burying her face in my neck. Like flowers. New perfume. Ryan had complimented it the day before. Mark reached over and squeezed my hand. Good morning, beautiful. The same thing he'd said every morning for 8 years. The same thing I'd stopped hearing somewhere along the way. Morning, I mumbled, already thinking about seeing Ryan at work. I was so deep in the fog of my own selfishness that I didn't notice the way Mark's smile didn't quite reach his eyes. I didn't see how he watched me get dressed, how he lingered in doorways, how he asked careful questions about my work schedule. I was too busy planning my next trail to notice that my husband was falling apart. 3 weeks later, Ryan and I had crossed every line there was to cross. We had our routine down to a science. Late meetings, conference rooms, hotel rooms during business lunches. I had become an expert liar, spinning stories so elaborate I almost believed them. I was very good. Mark still said, I love, every morning. Still my forehead when he thought I was sleeping. Still brought me coffee exactly how I liked it. And I felt nothing. Nothing but anticipation for my next message from Ryan. My next stolen moment, my next hit of feeling wanted. I had no idea that Mark had already found the texts. I had no idea that he'd hired a lawyer. I had no idea that while I was betraying him he was documenting everything. I thought I was so clever, so careful, so deserving of this happiness I'd found. I was about to learn that the universe doesn't care what think deserve. I was laughing at something Ryan had texted when the divorce papers hit my desk. Literally, they landed with a thud right on top of my keyboard while I was typing back a flirty response about our lunch plans. The sound made me, and I looked to see a woman in a crisp business suit standing there with a clipboard. Sarah Mitchell. Yes, I've been served. The entire office went silent. I mean dead silent. Know how offices have that constant hum of keyboards and phone calls and copy machines? All of it stopped. Every single person within 20 feet was staring at me. My hands were shaking as I picked the papers. The words swam in front of my eyes, but I caught the important ones. Petition for dissolution of marriage, irreconcilable differences, custody of minor children. Is everything okay? It was Janet from HR suddenly materializing beside my desk with that concerned look people get when they smell drama. I couldn't breathe. The papers felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds in my hands. Everyone was whispering now, their voices creating this horrible buzzing sound that made my head spin. Ryan appeared at my cubicle entrance. Sarah, what's wrong? That's when it hit me. Mark knew everything. I ran finally to the bathroom and out. My phone had 17 missed calls from Mark. 17. In the span of 20 minutes. I called him back with shaking fingers. Mark, I can explain. Don't. His voice was flat, emotionless. I'd never heard him sound like that ever. Just don't. Please let me come home, we can talk about this. No, we're not coming home. Things are packed, they're at sister's. What about the kids? Silence. Long, awful silence. Mark. What about Emma and Jake? What about them, Sarah? What about the kids when we're in that hotel room last Tuesday? What about them when missed Jake's soccer game for a work emergency? What about them when lied to their faces every single day? I started crying then. Desperate crying that made people in the office stare even more. I made a mistake. 17 times Sarah. I have evidence of 17 different times we're with him. That's not a mistake, that's a choice. 17 choices. The line went dead. I sat there in my cubicle, divorce papers scattered across my desk, mascara running down my face, while my coworkers pretended not to stare. Ryan had disappeared. Typical. I tried calling Mark back, but it went straight to voicemail. His voice warm and familiar, asking me to leave a message after the beep. The same voicemail greeting he'd had for years. The same voice that used to tell me he loved me. Mark, please. I know I messed, but we can fix this. We can go to counseling, I'll do anything. Please don't take the kids away from me. Then I called again. I was so. But have to understand, I felt invisible. I felt like didn't excuse what I did, but maybe can understand why. And again, Ryan means nothing to me, nothing. It was just, I don't know what it was. A midlife crisis or something. Or my husband. Or the father of my children. Or my whole world. 15 voicemails. I left 15 voicemails before I realized he'd probably blocked my number. I drove to my sister Kelly's house. Sure enough, there were 3 suitcases on her front porch and a note taped to the door. Sarah, Mark called. I can't believe did this. Can stay here tonight, but we need to talk. The kids don't know. Oh God. Emma and Jake didn't know their world was about to. I led into Kelly's house and immediately called Mark from her landline. Maybe he hadn't blocked that number. He answered on the first ring. Kelly, it's me. He hung. I called back. Stop calling. Mark, please. 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes to explain. Explain what? That been lying to me for months. That been with another man while I was home with our children. That made me feel crazy for thinking something was wrong. Do know what Jake asked me yesterday. He asked me why mommy doesn't love daddy anymore. A 5-year-old Sarah. A 5-year-old could see what was happening to our marriage, while we're too busy sneaking around to notice. That broke something inside me. Something that I don't think ever healed. I do love. No, don't. Can't do what did to someone law. Can't look children in the eye and lie to them if love their father. Can't destroy a family if actually love them. He was right. I knew he was right, but hearing it was like being stabbed. What happens now? Now deal with the consequences of choices. I've talked to a lawyer. I have documentation of lies. I have witnesses to behavior. Witnesses. Coworkers aren't as blind as think they are, Sarah. People talk. People notice when someone starts dressing differently, staying late, taking long lunches with the same person. I felt sick again. How many people knew? How many people had been watching my marriage fall apart while I was too selfish to see it happening? I want to see the kids. That's not to me anymore. That's to the court. Mark. I have to go. Emma has a ballet recital tune the one forgot about because we're too busy planning next betrayal. Emma's recital. She'd been practicing for weeks. She'd show me her routine every night before bed. How had I forgotten? Can I come? No. Please. She's my daughter. Then should have thought about that before decided to her family. The line went dead again. I spent that night on Kelly's couch, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the last few months, every lie I told. Every time I'd chosen Ryan over my family, every opportunity I'd had to stop and didn't. Kelly came downstairs around midnight. I saw the kids today. She said, "Quiet are they?" Confused, scared. Jake keeps asking when her coming home. Emma won't start crying again. Kelly, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to fix this. She sat down in the chair across from me, and for the first time in my big sister looked at me with disappointment instead of love. Can't fix this, Sarah. Can't take back what did. Can't undo the damage. There has to be something. Destroyed marriage, broke children's hearts, away the best man I'll ever know for some guy at work who, from what I hear, hasn't even tried to contact since the papers were served. She was right about Ryan. He'd been radio silent since the scene at the office. No texts, no calls, no concerned messages asking if I was okay. The man I'd risked everything for had disappeared the second things got complicated. What kind of person does that, Sarah? What kind of mother does that to her children? I didn't have an answer. Because the truth was, I didn't know what kind of person I'd become. I didn't recognize anymore. The next morning I had to face going back to work, back to the scene of my public humiliation, back to the whispers and stares and everyone knowing exactly what I'd done. Ryan wasn't there. He'd called in sick, according to Janet from HR, who delivered this information with barely concealed disgust. I sat at my desk, trying to work, trying to act normal, while my marriage burned down around me. Every few minutes, someone would walk by and glance at me like I was a zoo animal. At lunch, I overheard 2 women from marketing talking in the bathroom. Can't believe she thought she could just carry on like that and no one would notice. I feel so bad for her husband. He seems like such a nice guy. And those poor kids, they're going to be so messed up. They were talking about me, about my children, about how I destroyed their lives for a few stolen moments with a man who'd already abandoned me. I wanted to run out of that stall and defend, but what could I say? They were right. I was exactly the person they thought I was. When I got home to Kelly's that night, there was a message on her answering machine. Mark's voice, cold and business-like. "Sarah can see the kids this Saturday from 2 to 6 p.m. Supervised visitation at the community center. Don't be late 4 hours. I was going to see my children for 4 hours a week." The woman who'd thrown away everything for a few texts and stolen kisses was about to learn that some mistakes echo forever. Saturday came. 4 hours with my children. 4 hours to try to explain the unexplainable to a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old who just wanted their mommy to come home. The community center smelled like industrial disinfectant and broken dreams. There was a social worker there, Mrs. Patterson, who watched every interaction like I was a dangerous stranger instead of their mother. Emma ran to me when she saw me, but she stopped halfway. Something in her eyes had changed. The pure, unconditional love was still there, but now it was mixed with confusion and, "Mommy, why can't live with us anymore?" I knelt down to her level trying not to cry. Mommy made some very bad choices, sweetheart. And sometimes when grown-ups make bad choices, things change. What kind of bad choices? How to explain betrayal to a child? How to tell daughter that away her stable, happy home for something that turned out to be absolutely nothing? I daddy's feelings very badly. And when someone that much, sometimes they can't forgive. Jake climbed into my lap. He felt smaller than I remembered. And daddy getting divorced like Tommy's parents. The word hit me like a physical. Divorced. My children were gonna be from a broken home because of what I did. Yes, baby, we are. Emma started crying then. Not the dramatic tears of a tantrum, but the quiet, heartbroken sobs of a child whose world has just crumbled. I don't want to be divorced, I want our family back. I know, sweetheart, I want that too. But I knew it was too late. Mark had made that clear. We spent those 4 hours playing board games and coloring, but everything felt forced, artificial. Mrs. Patterson took notes the entire time. Notes about my fitness as a mother. Notes about my children's emotional state. Notes that would determine how much time I got to spend with the two people I loved most in the world. When it was time to go, Jake clung to my leg. I want to go home with mommy. I can't take home with me right now, baby. Why not? Because I destroyed our home. Because I chose a man who did even care enough to call me after everything fell apart. Because I was selfish and thought I deserved something more than the beautiful I already had. Because the court says need to stay with daddy right now. Mark came to pick them. He looked terrible. Like he hadn't slept in weeks. There were dark circles under his eyes and he'd lost weight. This man who had never anyone who had loved me completely looked broken. He barely looked at me. Say goodbye to mommy, he told the kids gently. Emma hugged me tight. I love mommy. I love too, baby girl, more than anything in the world. Jake hugged me next. We'll come to my soccer game next week. I looked at Mark. He shook his head almost imperceptibly. I don't think I can make it to this one, sweetie, but I'll try to come to the next one. Another lie. Another broken promise to my child. I watched them leave, my babies looking back at me with confused, sad eyes while their father loaded them into the car I used to ride in. The car where we'd sung silly songs on family road trips. The car where Mark and I had held hands at red lights. When I got back to Kelly's, there was a letter waiting for me, from the school district. Dear Ms. Mitchell, we regret to inform that position as PTA treasurer has been terminated effective immediately. Due to recent circumstances that have come to our attention, they'd kicked me out of the PTA. These women I'd worked with for years, planning bake sales and book fairs, had decided I wasn't fit to be around their children anymore. My phone buzzed. A text from my friend Michelle. Heard about what happened. The girls and I think it's best if don't come to book club anymore. Hope understand. Book club, we'd been meeting monthly for 3 years. We'd celebrated birthdays, supported each other through family crisis, shared our deepest secrets. Now was two to be around. The isolation was complete. Work was unbearable, with Ryan still mysteriously absent and everyone treating me like I had a contagious disease. My sister barely spoke to me except to discuss practical matters like how long I could stay at her house. My friends had dropped me. My children were living with a father who couldn't stand the sight of me. 2 weeks after the papers were served, Ryan finally showed at work. He avoided eye contact, took different routes through the office, ate lunch at his desk. The man who had whispered that I deserved better now acted like I didn't exist. I cornered him by the elevator. We need to talk. Nothing to talk about. Ryan, my marriage is over. My children barely know me anymore. My entire has exploded. He looked uncomfortable, fidgety. That's not my fault. Not fault. Pursued me for months. Told me I deserved better. Made me feel like what we had was real. It was just no. Fun. I didn't think to actually leave husband. Fun. 4 months of betraying my family. 4 months of lying to my children. 4 months of destroying the best thing that ever happened to me. I didn't leave my husband. He left me. Look, Sarah, I'm sorry things got complicated, but I can't be involved in this. I have a reputation to think about. A reputation. The man I'd risked everything for was worried about his reputation. Have a reputation. I'm the one everyone's talking about. I'm the one whose is ruined. That was choice. He got on the elevator and left me standing there, finally understanding what I'd traded my family for. Nothing, absolutely nothing. The divorce proceedings were swift and brutal. Mark's lawyer had done his homework. They had phone records, credit card statements, witness testimony from coworkers. They had pictures of Ryan and me leaving that hotel, pictures I didn't even know existed. My lawyer, a tired-looking woman who smelled like cigarettes, was Dane. Don't have a leg to stand on. Adultery, abandonment of family responsibilities, lying under oath. Husband is asking for full custody with supervised visitation, and honestly, we're lucky he's not asking for more. What about my rights as a mother? Gave some of those rights when chose to have an affair instead of working on marriage or filing for divorce first. The court doesn't look kindly on parents who prioritize their romantic interest over their children's well-being. In the end, Mark got everything. The house, primary custody, most of our assets. I got every other weekend with the kid, still supervised until I could prove I was stable. I got to pay child support I could barely afford on my salary. I got to move into a studio apartment across town and start over at 34 with nothing but the wreckage of the I'd destroyed. The day I moved into that apartment, I sat on the floor surrounded by the 3 boxes that contained my entire now, and I called Mark one last time. I know probably, but I need to say this. I'm sorry, so sorry. Not just for the affair but for all of it. For taking for granted. For not seeing how good we had it. For the kids. For throwing away our family. Silence. I know I can never undo what I did. I know never forgive me. I know the kids will probably never understand. But I need to know that losing them, losing everything. It's taught me what I had. And what I destroyed. More silence. Take care of them, Mark. They're lucky to have. They had both of us, he said quietly. Until decided they didn't. He hung. 6 months later, Emma came to one of our visits with exciting news. Daddy has a girlfriend, she announced. Her name is Lisa and she's really nice and she makes good pancakes. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. That's great, sweetheart. She comes to my ballet class and Jake's soccer games. She knows all the other moms now. Another woman was sitting in my spot at the soccer field. Meeting my children's teachers, probably sleeping in my bed. And she deserved it more than I ever had. Because she hadn't destroyed a family to get there. 3 years later, I still live alone in that studio apartment. I see my kids every other weekend, and sometimes they mention Lisa like she's more their mother than I am. Mark remarried last year. The kids were in the wedding. I watched from across the street as they came out of the church. Emma in a flower girl dress, Jake in a little tuxedo, both of them beaming. Mark looked happy for the first time since I'd known him. Really, genuinely happy. Lisa was beautiful. But more than that, she looked at my children the way I should have been looking at them all along. Like they were the most precious things in the world. Ryan got promoted and transferred to another city. I heard he's engaged to someone from his new office. I wonder if she knows what kind of man she's marrying. I wonder if he'll do to her what he helped me do to my family. But that's not my problem anymore. My problem is living with the fact that I had everything most people spend their whole lives looking for. And I hid away for a few stolen moments with someone who didn't even have the decency to stick around when it all fell apart. I work, I pay my bills, I see my kids every other weekend. I don't date, I don't trust to make good choices anymore. Besides, what could I offer someone? I'm the woman who betrayed the person who loved her most. I'm the mother who chose her own selfish desires over her children's well-being. Sometimes I drive by my old house. Mark and Lisa have painted it a different color, planted new flowers. There's a swing set in the backyard now, one of those elaborate wooden ones that Mark probably spent weeks building for the kids. It looks like a happy home. Like the home it always was before I poisoned it with my lies and betrayal. Emma is 10 now, she's in advanced math and plays violin. Jake is 8 and plays 3 sports. They're growing without me, becoming people I barely know, because I chose to destroy their world when they needed me to protect it. This is my now. This is what I chose when I deserved better than the man who loved me and the children who needed me. I write this as a warning to anyone who thinks the grass is greener somewhere else. It's not. It's dead and brown and poisoned by all the people who thought they deserved more than they had, just like me. The worst part isn't the loneliness or the regret or even losing the love of my. The worst part is knowing that my children learned what love looks like by watching me destroy it.